Thank you so much for being here. My name is Elizabeth Aloni, and I'm with Schneps Media. We're the largest media company in New York City with over 70 newspapers, magazines, websites, webinars, podcasts, and events across Queens, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Manhattan, Westchester, and Long Island. We're thrilled today to be welcoming Holli Broadfoot from CUNY School of Professional Studies for the webinar, Earn College Credit for What You Know, Save Time and Money on Your Bachelor's Degree. Two very valuable things. So we're thrilled to have Holli here with us today. Welcome, Holli.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. So I want to let you know a little bit about Holli. Holli Broadfoot joined CUNY School of Professional Studies in 2007 as Associate Director of Off-Campus College. In this role, she developed graduate and undergraduate courses, training programs, and certificates for working adults in New York City, as well as oversaw the day-to-day management, planning, and advisement of undergraduate adult college credit and non-credit programs. In 2015, she became the Associate Director of the Human Relations and Sociology degree programs. In 2018, she became the first experiential learning manager for CUNY SPS and is responsible providing school-wide leadership of the processes and procedures by which students may be awarded academic credit for experiential learning focused on credit for prior learning and internships. She holds a BBA in finance, an MDiv, and an MS in business management and leadership. We have quite the expert here with us. Welcome, Holli. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I am glad to be here. So welcome, everybody. As you know, we're going to be talking about how you basically can earn your bachelor's degree and save time and money in doing so. Again, I'm Holli Broadfoot. I'm the experiential learning manager, which is a fancy way of saying I oversee prior learning. This is my email address. You can also find it by just searching for me online. And the reason I put that up is because I want to be able to help anybody who wants to get their bachelor's degree, whether that's at my school or another school. So seriously, if you have any questions after this is over, I haven't answered, feel free to reach out to me through my email. So basically, what we're going to talk about today is credit for prior learning, how it can help you, how it can save you time and money, and probably the most important piece of this will be questions that you need to ask when you're choosing a college to finish your degree, because those questions you ask may be the difference between thousands of dollars. Now, we'll be upfront because I work at SPS. I know our policies best, and so I will use them as an example in many cases. My hope is not that you run out and try to apply and come to SPS. My hope is that you come away from this webinar being a better college consumer and a better advocate for yourself so that you can make the best choices for you. This is a graph that probably you have seen in some fashion over the years, but it's really important to know this. Basically, the brown bars in the graph are high school education or less. The gray and blue bars are some college to a master's degree. And as you can see, every 10 years or so, the jobs that are requiring at least some college are growing. So the question now is shifted from, do I need a college degree, to how I can earn my college degree. And this is really part of the problem for adults. The old model was built upon someone taking 5 classes per term, which is 15 credits. They would attend full time, you graduate in 4 years, you go out and get a job. The new model is people taking only 1 to 3 classes per term and attending part-time. This has resulted in millions of Americans with some college but no degree. This is becoming the norm, excuse me, but it doesn't have to be. We don't have to have 37 million Americans with some college but no degree. So how can you finish quickly? How can you get your college degree without taking multiple loans? And this really seems to be the answer for many, many adults, and that's credit for prior learning. In its simplest form, all it is validating and credentialing college level knowledge and learning and skills you've gained, not only inside a classroom, but most importantly, outside the classroom. So this is kind of the heart of it. In general, most colleges use 4 big buckets to talk about credit for prior learning, or you'll hear people say CPL. Those 4 buckets are transfer credit, exams, credentials and certifications, and portfolios. So, the first type of CPL is transfer credit. This is the one most people are familiar with. This is all the college courses you took for credit in an accredited college at some point in your life. Now, this is the issue. You would think it would be simple to use. You took a class in the past at a college, you passed, so another school should take your credit. Unfortunately, it isn't that simple. Studies have shown that students lost an estimated 43% of their college credits when they transferred, or an estimated 13 credits on average. That amounts to about 4 to 6 courses and at least 1 full term of enrollment. So what can you do? And this is the important thing to keep the credits you earned. What you do is you become your own advocate and you ask lots of questions. These are the questions you need to be asking and looking for at any college you are considering. The first question you ask is, how many transfer credits does the college accept? Every college will have what is called a residency requirement. This is simply the number of credits that have to be taken at that college. Now, this is going to differ between colleges, so you have to ask, don't assume. Most colleges will have a 30 credit residency requirement, but there are a handful of schools, about 4 or 5 of us in the country, which includes CUNY SPS, that only has a 15 credit residency requirement. So usually, if you take the number of credits you need for the degree and subtract the residency requirement, that should give you the number of transfer credits a college accepts. For example, a college with a 30 credit residency requirement might accept up to 90 credits, because most degrees are around 120 credits. CUNY SPS with only a 15 credit residency requirement would accept up to 105 credits. The next question to ask is there a time limit on the credits? Believe it or not, some colleges won't accept any course that is over a certain number of years old, while other colleges like SPS don't have limits for most courses. What this can mean for you is, say you went to college in 2005 and earned 30 credits toward your general education. One college might not accept any credits, another college might accept 15 credits, while a third would accept all 30 credits, and the only difference was the year in which you took those classes. Next question you should be asking is how your courses transfer. On one end, a college will only allow you to transfer courses in as electives, or maybe general education courses, but they don't allow you to transfer in courses towards your major. Another college will first transfer courses in as major courses, then general education, then as electives. This is important because the more courses that transfer in as major courses, then general education, frankly, the better off you are. Lastly, ask a college if they have an unofficial transfer evaluation. Many colleges won't tell you anything about how courses transfer until you're already admitted. That means you're stuck at a college where you had 30 credits, you were hoping they would take 30 credits, you go to the trouble being admitted, they say they will only take 10, and so now you have to decide, do you still stay with that college or do you wind up wasting a term? If they don't have unofficial transfer evaluations, what you can do is kind of see the questions we've already talked about. If a college doesn't have time limits on most credits, nor limits on how you can transfer your courses, most likely that college is going to be pretty good about being fair to you and trying to help you towards your degree. If a college has a lot of limitations, you most likely will be further away from your college degree and will lose credits in the transfer. The next type of CPL are exams. These are simply tests you can take, and if you get at least a minimum score set by a college, you earn the college credits. So you study, you spend 2 hours or so taking a test, and instead of spending 15 weeks in a class, you can earn 3 credits for that 2 hours worth of work. This is the thing. All tests aren't equal. They differ in cost and how they're administered. Some can be proctored at home. Some have to be taken in a proctoring center. But in general, you can expect to spend somewhere between $75 and $150 on an exam. So what do you need to know about exams at a college you're looking at? First, ask, is there a limit on the number of exams you can take? Some colleges not only put a limit on the number of credits that can be earned through CPL, but they also limit the number of credits earned by the types of CPL. So even though a college may say they will take 45 credits of CPL, it doesn't necessarily mean they would take 45 credits of exam. So ask. Ask what exams they accept for credit. In addition to the major ones I've listed in the slide, such as AP and CLEP, there are other exams. For example, there are Sailor direct credit exams that SPS takes. Those are proctored at home and those are $25. Some colleges also will have their own in-house challenge exams that you can take. In a similar fashion with time limits and transfer credits, colleges might not accept exams that are over a certain number of years old. So if you've taken exams in the past, ask about this. Some colleges will accept exams that are old. So this is really an important question for you to ask. Then also ask how exams are placed on transcripts. Meaning, can you take an exam to fulfill a major course, or are you only can take exams to fulfill general education or electives? That's important. If you transferred in 30 credits, but they fulfilled all your electives and you can't take exams or anything other than electives, then exams really aren't going to be useful to you at that college. And then last, ask, is there a cost to place the credits on your record? Some colleges will have a fee for that, some colleges won't. Usually that cost is minimal, but it's always good to ask. Third bucket of prior learning are credentials and certifications. Now these run the gamut from IT credentials such as CompTIA to certifications such as EMT or real estate license, and it can also include things like corporate training for McDonald's and Starbucks, and it even includes military credit. And again, there are a lot of questions you need to be asking colleges if you want to really get the most use out of this. First, ask once again, is there a limit on the credentials and certifications you will accept? You need to ask this question for every individual type of CPL, as each college makes its own rules, and some colleges, a department might have rules separate from the university. So if you know what degree you were thinking of getting, then just ask, are the rules different for this degree or department? If you have a credential certification, ask about it. The school might have already evaluated it. It could be an evaluating process, or like at SPS, sometimes we might not have evaluated a credential. A student brings it to us and we decide to put it in our evaluation process. Ask if they have a list of credentials or certifications they accept. See if you can see that list. Some colleges will put it online, some colleges won't. Next, ask if they accept certifications from one of these two places, ACE or NCCRS. ACE stands for American Council on Education, and NCCRS stands for the National College Credit Recommendation Service. Everybody will only refer to them as ACE or NCCRS. So if you actually use their name, some schools won't know what you're talking about. Now, this is the thing. These two organizations are paid by companies, paid by organizations to evaluate credentials and certifications, and then they give college credit recommendations. So what you can do is look on both those sites and see if your credential is listed on ACE or NCCRS. And if it is, then you will have a better chance of a college accepting that for credit. Last, you need to ask, what proof do you require for a credential certification? Say you have a New York State real estate license. Ask, what do you need to see? Some colleges may say they want a photocopy of it. Someone else may want the license number so that they can look it up. This is why this is important. You want to know what that proof is needed. So the minute you are admitted to the school, you can have those credits placed on your transcripts. Any credentials or certifications you have that have already been evaluated, any exams you've already taken that have already been evaluated, you want them on your transcript before you take your first class at that school. The reason you want to do that is you want to be able to make a plan for what classes you take. And the last thing you want to happen is you pay for a class when you could have received the credit for a credential, or you're forced to not be able to take a class because a credential would have given you the prerequisite, but now you have to wait an extra term because you're waiting for that credential. So go ahead and see what proof they need so you can hit the ground running. And then again, if something's not listed, ask if there's an evaluation process. Is the school still evaluating credentials, or have they stopped doing that? And then lastly, which you will see on every slide, is there a cost to place the credits on my record? Because you want to know what that cost is. Lastly, as part of the CPL, we have portfolios. At its most basic, these are simply papers you write with backup documentation that say to an assessor, you have the college level knowledge. That's basically it. In general, colleges work with portfolios in one of two ways. Either a student writes a large paper outlining their work history and knowledge, and an assessor at a college assigns maybe 3 to 12 college credits, usually as general electives. The other method, which is what we do at SPS, is what's called a course match basis. A student such as yourself creates a portfolio for a specific course, and credit is awarded for that specific course. So some questions to ask about a portfolio. Ask, is there a limit on the credits you can earn a portfolio? As I've said before, it's good to know no matter if the college assigns a chunk of credits or if it's on a course match basis. Along with that, you need to ask about where any credits earned will be placed on your transcript. Sometimes portfolios will be limited to general electives, and that's particularly true of portfolios that are assigned a block of credits. Other colleges like SPS, we allow you to earn credits for major or minor courses. And in fact, I had a student about a year ago who earned an entire minor in disability studies through portfolio. And I actually had a student last year earn their entire business minor through exams. So how all these pieces work together is really important. Next question is, do you offer a workshop or course to instruct you in how to do a portfolio? Creating a portfolio and writing the paper for it is a specific type of writing because you're trying to show an assessor that you have this college level learning. It isn't simply sitting down and writing out your work or knowledge history. It's not turning in a resume. So again, this can greatly differ between schools, which is why you need to ask. Some schools will offer a short 2-hour non-credit workshop. On the other end are schools like SPS, where we actually offer a college credit bearing course on the topic. And in that course, you earn credit by learning to create a portfolio for another course in which you can earn credit. Lastly, the favorite question of all, is there a cost to place the credits on my record? And what is the cost of creating a portfolio? Remember, don't assume that it is the same for every type of CPL. Now, these last 3 slides are kind of bringing this together so you can see how the pieces work. You know a little bit about CPL. You know questions to ask about CPL. Now you need to know what questions to ask the college itself so that you can choose the college and best leverage your use of CPL. So, ask what the residency requirement is. Remember, most colleges will have 90 credits, but there are a handful like SPS that have 105. So if you have 95 credits from different colleges, that can make a difference. Ask about their credit for prior learning program. What types of CPL do they have? What limits? What cost? Now, the next few questions are really important for adult students. Oftentimes, people choose a college, even adults, because it's most convenient for either their workplace or their home. And sometimes they will choose a college then based on what times the college offers courses. So let's say you're looking at an in-person classroom degree program. Ask, when do they offer courses? Only in the daytime? Only in the nighttime? Only on weekends? Does that work with your schedule? This is the other thing. After they tell you when they offer those courses, ask, Are all courses offered at that time? And that word all is really important because some college will offer the major courses at night, but then only offer the general education courses during the daytime. Ask, do they offer online courses? This can be a great option for adults, but know that an online course isn't simply putting material online. So also ask how long they've been doing online courses and degrees. At SPS, we've been doing this for 15 years, and we're now ranked by US News and World Report as 16th in the nation on their list of best online bachelor's program. Having a good online program makes a difference. And we are a good online program, but there are a lot of other good online programs across the nation. Ask if there's a price difference between online courses and in-person courses or degrees. Believe it or not, some schools will charge more in tuition or add on fees that will be almost the cost of tuition to online courses and degrees. You don't want to pay extra for a course because it's online. If a school is charging you 2 times the rate for an online degree than an in-person degree, you have other choices. Look at other schools. Ask if there's a price difference between in-state and out-of-state tuition. Don't assume what's on the website is always the answer. Out-of-state tuition can sometimes be 2 to 4 times as much as in-state. This can make finishing a degree impossible if you wind up moving out of state. Some places, this is not as much of a problem. If you are in a place like Texas and you are moving all around Texas, you'll have a lot of colleges, a lot of job opportunities. But imagine starting college in New York. You start college in New York City, then you get promoted and you move to New Jersey. If you wanted to finish your degree at your college in New York, you just became an out-of-state student and your tuition just tripled. Now, some schools, particularly online schools, and this is why you want to ask the questions, will charge the same in-state tuition no matter where you are in the world and where you live. So for instance, at our school, we charge everybody the in-state CUNY tuition. And this is done so that you don't have to put on hold your education because of changes in your life. So ask those in-state, out-of-state tuition questions. Next, ask what is the cost per credit. Since many adults have to go part-time, ask the cost per credit, not the yearly cost based on taking 12 or more credits per term. That's oftentimes what schools will show on their website. That will sometimes be what they have in their literature. They'll have, this is the cost per term, which means you pay that if you take 12 credits or more. Since most people have to take fewer than 12 credits, is that cost per credit or that cost per course that becomes most important. And one question that not everybody thinks about, but ask, how do you meet with your advisor? Can you meet with your advisor remotely so that on your lunch hour you could Skype or call your advisor, or do you have to go on campus to do so? Just because a school will offer courses or say they have an adult program, they haven't built out their entire infrastructure to deal with the issues adults have, such as they cannot go on campus to do things like meet with an advisor. So ask those specific questions. Lastly, ask some really important questions to yourself. Why do you want the degree? Do you need a specific degree? Are you planning on earning a master's degree? If you simply need a bachelor's degree, then a good college is going to talk to you about how your credits will transfer into different majors and how you can best take advantage of CPL. Some colleges will even have a degree for adults that allow flexibility for a lot of transfer credits for students who have a number of credits across majors. For example, at SPS, we have a liberal studies degree for students that have a lot of various credits. And then our business degree was designed to allow students a lot of flexibility in the use of CPL. Another question to think about is, are you planning on earning a master's? This is important. If you are, then that 3.0 GPA becomes really important, and that becomes really important in working with your advisor. So when you choose what courses to take and which courses you might want to use CPL for, that becomes a really big conversation. The reason I say that is it might be worth paying for a course in which you feel you can confidently get an A for GPA purposes rather taking an exam for credit. So your planning long-term may be a little bit different. Lastly, as I touched on a minute ago, think about your job, career, life going forward. Where do you see yourself in the next 3 years, the next 5 years, the next 7 years? Moving away from a college and not being able to take classes at a certain time or moving out of state can set you back greatly in getting your college degree if you don't plan ahead and ask these questions. You might have a boss today that allows you to leave a little early on Mondays in order to get to class. But what happens if your boss changes and you no longer can get away for those Monday classes? So all of this can greatly impact as you look at in-person and online programs. Some people do better in online programs. Some people do better in in-person programs. That is entirely up to you. But the last thing you want to do is to start a degree program, then have to switch colleges again. That will set you back in both time and money. But if you start asking these questions of yourself and asking these questions of colleges, you're going to be in a much better position. And this is where I'm going to kind of pull it together. And then in a couple of minutes, I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. College can be expensive. So these are the college rates for a 4-year or 120 credits. For someone who has no college credits, if you just started from scratch, you have 0 credits today and you only took classes, you could be spending at Columbia $250,000. Average private 4-year college is a little over $100,000. Now, if you went to CUNY full-time, $27,000, which sounds like a great deal. If you were having to pay part-time for every college, all of a sudden it's now $36,000. So what can you do? This is how it pulls together. This is what happens when you add CPL and someone who has some credits. So I'm going to use the Bachelor in Business at SPS as an example. If someone came in with 0 college credits, no transfer credits, went part-time, it's going to cost about $36,000 at CUNY. Now let's say someone went to several different colleges over the years and they've accumulated 60 credits. Make it easily. 60 credits is 20 courses, and let's say they were able to transfer 5 courses into each of these areas. So they transferred 5 courses into Gen Ed, 5 courses for the required business major, 5 courses into their elective business bucket, and 5 courses at free electives. So if a student did that, that still means that they would have to take, let's say, 7 Gen Ed, they'd still have to take 9 required business, 1 elective business, and they still need 3 more courses in free electives. They still need 20 courses. Now, if they just came in with their 60 credits and they didn't use any CPL, they just took the courses, did their 2 courses a term, they're going to cost about $18,000. That's how much it's going to cost to go part-time. However, someone took the questions I asked, thought about what they wanted to do, and they decided that they were going to study and do some exams. And in this case, let's say a person doesn't have any credentials, but if they did, it still would be around, it wouldn't alter this too much. But they come in, and instead of having to take 7 courses for Gen Ed, they take 5 exams, they take a portfolio course, and then they write a portfolio. For the required business, they only take 4 courses, but they take 5 exams. For elective business, they decide just to do 1 exam, and for the general electives, they do 3 exams. Suddenly, their price drops from $18,000 to around $5,000 to $6,000. So they save about $12,000 by just making a plan. And when I say that's around $6,000, I'm including an average cost of exams. So that is inclusive. So if you plan ahead, if you think ahead, if you choose the right school, if you think about a school that can work with you, then you suddenly are saving about $12,000. On top of that, if a person came in with 60 credits and took 2 courses a term, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring, 2 in the summer, and they're still working full time, they're still wanting a life, they still have a home life, it's going to take them a little over 3 years to finish. And think in those 3 years, how many things could happen in their lives, job changes, life changes that may make it so that they have to skip a term. They can't take 2 courses a term. The person who's doing CPL, not only are they looking at about $5,000, $6,000, but they're looking at only taking, 5 courses. So for them, 2 courses a term means they're finished with their coursework in less than a year. And if they are studying for their exams and taking exams through that year, they could conceivably have their degree in about a year for $6,000. So this is one of the reasons why I talk about and I'm passionate about CPL, is it can make a huge difference for you. And it can make a huge difference if you look at the right college, ask the right questions, be proactive, be a proactive consumer, and use CPL to your advantage. Then yeah, it can cut, as this example shows, save $12,000 and save 2 years of your life. So this does it basically for me. I am going to stop sharing the screen, and I'm going to answer any questions people have.
Thank you, Holly. That was great.
Okay.
Really eye-opening to see really what planning and thinking about these things and really make such a huge difference in time and money. But we have some great questions from the attendees. The first question I have was, this person's asking about a second BA and whether it can be used in a practical way. She says that she's a lifelong learner. She already has a diploma in dental hygiene and a BA BA in behavioral science and humanities and certificate programs and etc. So what is your thoughts on that?
My thought is it's a great question, and the answer to a second BA is always it depends. And what I mean by that is it depends what you're wanting to do with it. For a lot of schools, they have special rules for people with a second BA, so you won't have to take your gen ed again, you won't have to do many things except maybe take major courses. But the question is, why do you want that BA? If you are getting a BA in something that is more general, that isn't really skill-based, like an IT BA might be, or say perhaps a healthcare BA. My advice for people is usually go for a master's, not a second BA. Most masters are only going to be 30 to 36 credits. They're a little more expensive, but for instance, you can have almost any undergraduate degree, and if you're wanting to stay in business, you could get your MBA or a master's in business and management, 30 credits, which is going to be about the same amount of time as getting that second BA. There's no reason. So my advice for most people is, if you can get a second, if you can go to the master's, go to the master's. If you are wanting to do something that requires that BA in a very specific schedule, piece of knowledge, like an IT computer degree, then that can make sense. What I would suggest people do is say, look at the job descriptions, job offers of the jobs they want to get, see what people are asking, not only what are the required, but what is recommended, what they're hoping to look for. And this is also the good way to kind of find a mentor. Ask around, send emails, run into people and say, wow, you work in this field, how much of a degree is this worth? And you have to really kind of balance out the time in a degree to what your internal feelings are about it. Are you doing this just because it makes you feel really great at getting a degree, or are you doing this because you're really trying to move into a different field, and how much time will it take to recoup that money?
Great answer. And also it shows about how everything is very specific to what each individual is looking to and what their future is. We have another question. Do schools generally allow the transfer of conservatory credits?
It depends on the school. And that's why CPL, to be honest, CPL is really only, it's kind of exploded in the last maybe only 5 to 7 years. And so there's still a little bit of the wild, wild west, along with schools still trying to figure out how to do it. So for instance, we have a department for prior learning at SPS now. But a lot of schools don't have a department yet. This is something that's kind of an add-on to other people's jobs. So that's one of those questions where it would depend on the degree, it would depend on what you wanted to do. And that's when you go to the schools you're looking at and you say, this is what I have. How can this be used toward this degree I want to get? Because that's really the bottom line question is, I have X, how do I use this to get to where I want to go? And that's a fair question to ask at any college. Because remember, you're the consumer. And they want to have you at their school. And if they aren't going to give you the answers you need, they aren't going to get back to you, then just like any other business, you have a lot of places to shop around, go someplace else.
Great advice, great advice. Someone asked, if I have a degree from my home country and 20 plus years of experience in nonprofit, and I'm aiming to receive my master's in the US to study sustainable management, what can I do with my previous education and work experience?
Have your, and it's, I cannot think of the company now, but because it comes out of our registrar's office and admissions office, but there are a couple of different companies that colleges work with that will evaluate foreign degrees and will say this is what your coursework is the equivalent of 1 year in the US, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year. So you need to have your foreign degree evaluated. Once that's done, then you can see how close you are to getting a bachelor's in the US, because in order to get a master's in the US, you have to have a bachelor's. I mean, that's basically kind of where you're going to be stuck in this loop. So if your big thing is to get a master's, then you look at master's programs, see what courses they need, see if there's a specific degree, such as, for instance, most business masters in general, the undergrad degree doesn't matter that much. Say like an MBA, but they may say they want you to have an econ class, an accounting class, a statistics class. So you can always make certain you take those undergrad ones. But so if there's not a specific degree you need, then you get your foreign degree evaluated, see how close you are to a bachelor's, use all the questions I said, find a school in which you can get that bachelor's as quickly as possible. So then you can go to the master's. But until you finish that bachelor's degree, unfortunately, in the US, you are really kind of stuck. So that's why I would really look at SPS is a great school. We do 105 credits. In the Northeast, there's Thomas Edison that's good. There's Empire. So there are some schools around that will have some sort of flexibility, but find one that's going to work with you and say, let's get you in and out and help you find that master's degree that you want.
Terrific, thank you. So I have a couple other questions that are similar to that. You know, one person was talking about how they have 30 credits and they're interested in obtaining their bachelor's, and she's a mother and a wife and employed full-time, and her career extends over 20 years in operations and management. How can that experience along be applicable towards my degree? And does experience in work transfer?
It can. And take my school for an example, the way basically that's the typical student I'm dealing with. I think our average age of our students fluctuates between about 37 and low 40. So this is the conversation I have with people one-on-one every day. Basically it translates in a couple of ways. One is there's a very good chance that you could take that person, you could take an exam right now and pass it. Like you might be able to take a management CLEP exam or sailor exam and pass it without even studying, because you already know a lot of that information. The other thing, so that's one way that your knowledge can help you, is you either don't need to study or you don't have to study nearly as much for some of the exams. So you can take, one a month and kind of knock them out to earn credits. The other way is like through our school that we do portfolios on a course matching basis. So someone in this field might say they may do a portfolio for their principles and management class. Then I might work with them to do a portfolio for project management. Then I might work with them to do a portfolio for organizational behavior and change. So we would look at the knowledge they have and things they've done. you know, one of the courses that a lot of people do portfolios I work with is a writing in the workplace course, because most people who have done that for 20 years. So why would they want to take a class when they could do a portfolio? So those are really kind of the two ways is look at exams, make a plan. There are a couple of places where you can even take practice exams. You can do things for free as you're studying to see how much you need to know, so you aren't studying from scratch. And then the other thing is find a place that will allow you to do portfolios so that you can get credit for that knowledge in one way or another. Like I mentioned earlier, there was someone who had worked in the disability field for 20 years. They did 4 portfolios and earned their disabilities minor just based on their 20-year work experience.
That's great. Because someone else asked that about accounting as well. Is that similar to, does it cross all different fields?
Yeah.
Okay.
It crosses different fields, and the reason I say that is like someone with accounting, I can already think of the top of my head. I think there are 3 or 4 different accounting exams I can think of, and they may be able to sit down and say immediately, I can do this. And I'll mention this, there's a, because people may find this a little bit, but there is a place, we take exams from a place called sailor.org. The reason we do that is they do home proctoring, which became very important during a time when you might not be able to go out. You can go, their material is free. You can take an exam, a practice exam for free. So I would suggest people go to that site today or over the next month, take a practice exam, see what one of these exams looks like.
Can you say that site again?
Sailors, SAYLOR.org, I believe. And they have what's called Sailor Direct Credit. So that's free. Take a practice exam, get an idea of what it's like, see what studying would be like. There's another place called Modern States, MODERNSTATES, and they have free study materials for CLEP exam. So you can go there for any CLEP exam, see what the material is like, take quizzes. And Modern States actually runs a program where if you do their self-study, they call it a self-study course, you can then ask them for a voucher so you can take a CLEP exam for free. So for instance, when I'm working with students, I not only talk about, you know, here are the different exams you can take, but I also talk about this exam is $25 and it's proctored at home. This exam has free study guides and it's this much. So you can also really get that kind of money and cost time down just by choosing one exam provider over another. But go online, take an exam. For most people, the exams aren't nearly, they already know some of the material. Someone who's been accounting for 20 years may take a practice exam and say, wow, I already know 60% of this. I really only need to study maybe another 2 to 3 weeks before I could pass this exam. Because working adults aren't starting from scratch in a lot of these areas. They might be starting from scratch in a history course, but they aren't starting from scratch in a lot of these courses, particularly for the majors they're choosing.
That's great. That's great advice. In terms of money again, someone was asked about, do these costs to add these things into your transcript, are they covered by financial aid?
No, that's one thing is most credit for prior learning is not covered by financial aid. So this is what usually happens is most of our students are part-time students, so they may get a grant here or there. But very few are able to take 12 or 15 courses. But what we find is people need to be taking, people need to be earning 9, 12 credits on average a term to keep going to get their degree. The fewer credits you earn per term, studies are showing that people just can't persist. Life is going to get in the way. Money gets in the way. Jobs get in the way. So that's why the saving time becomes really important. So with that, exams and some of these aren't covered by financial aid, but this is the difference. At CUNY, one course is $915. An exam, like I just talked about the CLEP exam, they will give you, if you go through the Modern State site, they give you a free voucher. You can sometimes get them to pay for proctoring. So that exam is free for you. Sailor exams are $25 and you're proctored at home. So you're talking about DSST exams run with proctoring usually around 75 to maybe 125. So you're talking about for somewhere between $25 and maybe 120, not covered by financial aid, but you just paid for 3 credits. So that can be the big, that's the big savings. And it also is speeding you up so much that, as I showed in that slide, that it can be the difference between taking 3+ years to finish your degree or taking 1.
Wow.
And that's why I also say, not just me, I think anybody who cares about the students will talk to them and say, oh, I know you're looking at this exam provider, but did you know we offer this exam and this that will cover the same thing you need, and it will be half the price.
Important information.
So, yeah.
Someone was asking, what about someone was asking about being a lawyer or getting a PhD. Yeah. Are there tests similar to the CLE or bar exams?
No.
Okay.
And that's basically, the quick answer is CPL is really somewhat, it's still in its infancy, and it's been really designed and it's being put in place for bachelor's degrees. It's a way to help you get that bachelor's degree quickly so then you can move on to the master's, the PhD. Because the other thing, and this is master's degrees, because they tend to be fewer credits. Most master's degrees are somewhere around 30 to maybe 45 credits. There are a handful, like I have a divinity degree that was over 90. But in general, most masters, around 30 to 40, because it's only that many, and because of accreditation issues, not necessarily because of what a college wants. They can't allow a number of credits to be moved in. They can't allow a lot of CPL. So a master's degree on average, if you're lucky, may allow you only about 6 credits to be in that master's degree. And this is one of the reasons why I talk so much. If you're planning on getting your master's, if you're thinking about I want a master's and even a PhD, then your planning for a bachelor's becomes different, because your planning for a bachelor's becomes, what bachelor courses do I need that will be a requirement in a master's? Is there a certain course I need to take to get in that master's? That magical 3.0 GPA, it may be worth taking a course as opposed to taking an exam. So you really have to kind of plan that a little bit more if you're thinking of a master's than if you're really kind of in a, I'm just going to get my degree. That being said, if you're planning on getting, let's say, MBA or like a master's of science in business that I have, because they're so flexible, they aren't going to be looking as much at than if you were getting, let's say, you wanted a computer science degree, which is really going to want that undergrad degree because they want to make certain you have certain skills and knowledge that they're building on. A business degree, they kind of assume people are starting from scratch somewhat. So depends on your master's, but basically, if you're getting a master's, you know you're going in, paying for it out of pocket. It's going to take you a while. There are some master's programs that have a little bit of flexibility. Western Governors is a school that does things very differently. They kind of have a little more flexibility with the master's. But then again, if you're wanting a PhD, then you may not want to do a Western Governors. So all of that kind of has to fit together with a long-term plan.
Important. So let me just ask you a couple more questions. You've been so generous with your time. I appreciate it. Are SPS online courses accelerated, or is a standard in class semester schedule followed?
Good question. And I didn't bring that up. For people who don't know, some places will have what's called accelerated courses, meaning you could do 3 credits in about 5 weeks. We don't do that. We've talked about doing that, and this is why we found, and kind of I think part of the reason we've made the decision not to. A 15-week course is basically 45 hours of work. Now, if you're trying to get, and that would be, if I was taking an in-person 15-week course, we're going to be meeting about 3 hours a night once a week. If I was having to do that in 5 weeks, instead of you having a week to do a project, you're going to be doing 3 projects that each which normally take a week, and all 3 have to be done in that week. And so for a lot of people, they think it's a great idea. I can take this one class in 5 weeks, but where are you going to find the time? time doesn't magically appear for you when you decide to get your degree. You have to kind of grab it from other places. And for most adults, their lives are already full. They aren't sitting around going, I have an extra 5 hours a day. What am I going to do with this for the next 5 years? So that's why I actually find CPL works better, because you're taking a course where you can really learn material. You're doing it over our fall and spring terms are 15 weeks. So you have 15 weeks to go and do the course. What I suggest then is, let's say you're doing the 2 courses, supplement that with your CPL. So you're doing your 2 courses over 15 weeks. That then allows you to do some exams. That will allow you to do some portfolios. So at the end, you have 15 weeks at a time you can control. So that, for instance, let's say you're doing 2 courses in 15 weeks and you're planning on trying to do 2 exams. And your plan was to study and take 1 exam the first half of the term and another exam the second half of the term. The term starts and suddenly your boss says, you know what, we have this big project. I want you to take it. And in your head, you're thinking, I need to take this, but I'm not going to have time for the exam. If you're an accelerated course, you're going to cry a lot and possibly fail the course or not do the project that could lead to a promotion. If you've built CPL in, suddenly instead of saying, I'm going to study for this first exam the first 8 weeks, you say, I can concentrate on this really great project for my boss, and I just study for this exam because I have control of when I study and when I'm taking the exam, and I'll take it the second half of the term, or I'll study the second half and take those exams in January. So accelerated courses can be good, but just remember, they're accelerated for a reason, which means 15 weeks of work in 5 weeks. We have 7-week summer terms, and I'm telling you, people feel like they're on a treadmill when they're taking those things, when you're cramming work, because we want people to leave with skills that they're going to be able to use the next day in their job, skills they're going to use the next day in their life. So just remember, a 5-week term can be great. It also means you have less time to drop the class. You have less time to catch. If you fall behind in week 2, there's not going to be another 4 weeks for you to catch up because the class is almost over. And if life happens in accelerated class, I've just seen too many people where it becomes a sink or swim situation. So I think it's kind of an individual basis. If you know what you're getting into, it can be a good thing. But people, I think, don't quite grasp you're taking 15 weeks of work and cramming that into 5 weeks. So if you think about, let's say you're reading 100 pages a week for 15 weeks. Now imagine reading that same amount in only 5. And so, that's something you really just kind of have to take time on. And that's one reason why, if you talk to a good school and they're going to talk to you about CPL, you can also do things, because some people want, and going on a little more about this, but it's really important for adults, is some people say, I want to do these accelerated terms because I can start. Let's say I've missed the fall deadline, but I don't want to wait until next February to start. A good school will say, look, apply. We'll go ahead. We're going to accept you for February. We're giving you an advisor already. So let's look and see what exams you can take between now and February. So you aren't, you're still being able to make progress. You're still being able to come in so that when February hits, you already have earned 15 credits from exams that you've been studying for and taking before you took your first class at the school. So CPL can be a really good way to allow you not only to be cheaper, but to kind of take control over your time and be able to kind of manipulate that based on other things that happen in your life.
Wonderful. Well, there's certainly a lot of interest in finding out, what can be used to be able to move forward in their degrees. And can people reach out to you and talk with you individually about their situation? Because of course, so much is so
Yes.
individual, and see, if CUNY's right for them and how they can move forward with what they have and, what they've done in business and how they can apply that.
No, absolutely. The easiest way is to just search for my name on CUNY SPS. You can look for Experiential Learning Manager. You can just Google my name, Holli, it's with an I, Holli. Last name is Broadfoot, like a wide Broadfoot. Email me. As you can imagine, this is a crazy time, so it may take me a few days to get back to you, but I will get back to you. I will answer your question. If it's something our admissions office could better answer, I'll answer that. And one thing I didn't mention, but I'll say, because it was a project that I was involved in and came with adults, is some people who are adults realize they went to school many years ago. They kind of played around. They were 18, went to parties, and their GPA is like 1.9, or their GPA might be 2.2. They've gone to colleges, and the colleges say, sorry, you have to have a 2.5. So either you take these non-credit courses with us, or we want you to go back to community college and catch up. Our school has a program that's a different way. It's a kind of a portfolio based, where someone basically writes about their skills for people who have under that 2.5 GPA, so that people aren't held back by their GPA because they have a lot of knowledge and skills. And we've actually found, we just started it a year ago, that adults who come to this program have a better GPA, are persisting at a higher rate. So don't let any school say to you, I'm sorry, you have a 1.9 GPA, go back and take classes again. No. Our school has a program for that. I would imagine there's some other schools that do, but ask about that. But don't ever take a course over if you don't have to. So like I said, be your own consumer, and if one school isn't giving you the answers you need, or you don't understand their explanation, talk to other people. But yeah, I'll be more than happy to help anybody. And like I said, I can tell you about SPS, but I have no problem saying, hey, our school is great, but I think this program at this other school might be better for you, so you should check into that. I just want people to get their degree if that's what they want to do.
Wonderful. So there, I did put your contact information in the chat, and also everyone will be getting a thank you email tomorrow. Your contact information will be there as well. And this webinar will be available to be seen again on the Schneps Media YouTube channel. So if you want to go over this information again, you can certainly do that. And Holli, I want to thank you so very much for this valuable information. I've been getting so many thank you comments from all the attendees about what valuable information this was. So I truly appreciate it, and I wish you all to stay safe and healthy, and best of luck in getting your degrees.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye, everyone. Have a good afternoon.